It is important when thinking about change and the individual to note that all personal change involves unlearning old ways of behaving and learning new ones. It is helpful to have a way of looking at the learning process and how different people like to learn. In this module, David Kolb describes a cyclical process of adult learning. The learning cycle shows both the terms he originally used for the various stages and an indication of what he meant by them. To take a practical example, suppose a salesperson has a particularly successful meeting with a customer. Concrete experience. For learning to take place, leading to improved effectiveness, the salesperson must think back over the meeting and notice what happened. Reflective observation. Suppose the observation was that the salesperson had, early in the meeting, spent longer listening before making proposals. The salesperson then forms a hypothesis. Listening carefully to customers before making sales proposals leads to more productive customer interactions. Abstract conceptualization. As a result, the salesperson then decides to spend longer listening and exploring the customer's agenda in the next sales meetings. Practical experimentation. This creates further experiences and learning continues. Notice that the evidence of learning is that behavior changes. It is worth bearing in mind that it is possible to enter the learning cycle at any point. Another salesperson present at the customer interaction may just as easily be a reflective observer, formed the hypothesis and then experimented with the new sales behaviors. Or the salesperson could read a book making recommendations about listening more, abstract conceptualization, and decide to put this into practice. It is even possible, though less probable, that a salesperson would decide to experiment randomly with sales behavior, though in reality this would probably be based on at least a hunch, abstract conceptualization. Although, depending on the individual learner, they might enter the learning cycle at any point. However, Kolb stresses that if any one of the steps of the learning cycle are not taken, learning is inhibited or lost. Following on from Kolb and the learning cycle, Honey and Mumford then looked at the different learning styles and what it would look like for the different parts of the learning cycle. They categorized them as activists, reflectors, pragmatists, and theorists. An activist typically learns most happily from experience, preferably new experiences involving other people. True activists are constantly busy, enjoying the challenge of anything new and always ready to have a go. The risk for activists is that their tendency to move on rapidly from one experience to another may mean that they fail to learn effectively. A reflector likes to learn from watching others and from thinking back over their own experiences. Thorough and careful in character, reflectors absorb and consider all possible angles before drawing conclusions. Reflectors lose opportunities to learn because they tend to take too few risks to gain many practical experiences and may not engage sufficiently with others. A pragmatist likes to test and apply ideas and theories, especially where they have practical relevance to a current problem. Their realistic and practical approach to problems makes pragmatists open to new techniques and to anyone who can help or coach them as they try them out. Pragmatists lose learning opportunities by rejecting or ignoring ideas for which they see no obvious and immediate application. A theorist prefers learning that proceeds logically from first principles and appreciate clear theoretical models. They are happy to absorb their ideas through reading. They appreciate lectures which offer credible explanation of sound theory or which systematize and integrate data from experience. They may miss learning opportunities due to their aversion to intuitions and creativity and their intolerance of ambiguity. Have a think about what your preferred learning style may be. I am sure you can also think about other people who may be an activist, reflector, pragmatist, and theorist. It is important to remember that there is no right or wrong preference, and people are not necessarily just one preference. What we need to think about is how we would adapt our learning in relation to the change to suit these different preferences to ensure everyone is able to learn.